Yes, please. Hello, everyone! I apparently forgot to mute myself while I had the thing up, so I hope I wasn't talking to myself too much. But there'll be a little bit of that today. Hi, I'm Nicole Gallucci, one of your hosts of Learning Space. This is the weekly show about science education, space outreach, all those cool kinds of topics. Unfortunately, it's just me today. Our guest, Apollonia Rodriguez, is having some serious internet issues at home and at the office, and so wasn't able to connect. So we are hopefully going to be able to reschedule her to talk about the Dark Skies Preserve. I think one of the first, if not the first, Dark Skies Preserve in Alceva in Portugal. So we just found out about that 10, 15, 20 minutes ago. So I happily have a backup plan since I am doing a backyard astronomer camp this week for 2 days with my collaborator Sean Herberts here at the SIUE STEM Center. So I'd like to share some of those activities with you guys. I have a hello from Nancy Graziano in the chat. Hi. I don't know if anyone else is coming and saying hello, but please say hello in the Q&A, and I'm happy to answer questions in the Q&A, since otherwise this will probably be a pretty short show, since I'm doing this topic last minute. So what we're doing this week is a camp for local students. We have several students between the ages of 9 and 15. And we're billing this as a backyard astronomer camp. I think we were going with backyard astronomer boot camp. So this is the first draft of a cover that was created by Sean Herberts. If Tiny Intern has time, maybe she'll make us another pretty cover too. And it's a 2-day camp to introduce students to concepts of light and astronomy and how we do astronomy. In particular, how they can do astronomy on their own. So set up as a 2-day camp, the first day of the camp is going to be all about optical visible light, things that you can see with your eye. And so, of course, we've got the Galileo Scope is actually going to be the featured part of this camp. All of the students will be building their own and taking home a Galileo Scope and a tripod, so just a standard camera tripod, to do their own observing. And with any luck, the weather will be clear enough one of the 2 nights that we can actually do a star party with them and show them how to use their Galileo Scope. But we're not going to throw them at the telescope first off. We will be doing different things about the properties of light to start off with. And so there is a activity called the 3 B's of light, which is basically going through different things that you can do with light. And so the 3 B's, you haven't figured that out. I know I keep forgetting what they are, because they're not the words I would typically use, but it could be blocked and it could be bent. And see, I can't remember. It could be blocked, it could be bent, and it could be, so we have reflection, refraction, and blocking, basically. Bounced, that's the other B, bounced. So bounced, blocked, and bent are the 3 things that they have to figure out that light is doing. So we'll have 3 stations set up. One will have mirrors, one will have lenses, one will have different types of material they can make shadows with, and they have to figure out what those things do. So it's a pretty straightforward activity, going through different things you can do with light. We'll follow up with bending light, using some of the activities from the National Optical Astronomy Observatory has developed to go along with the Galileo Scope kit. Let me see, I should bring up the Galileo Scope. We had an episode about the Galileo Scope fairly recently. You can go to galileoscope.org to get them. They are currently sold in packs of 6, and so you could get it for a small group, or you can get a few different packs of 6 to get for a, let me screen share this, to get for a classroom group or a school group, so it's galileoscope.org. And it's a kit that you put together yourself to make the telescope. And what's nice about that, let me see what the assembly is. There's assembly instructions in various different languages. I don't know how quickly this will come up. But because you get the tube parts, okay, you guys can see that. You get the tube parts and you get the lenses separately. So here are the lenses that you need to put into the tube yourself. You can use those lenses for different activities before they've actually, thank you, Nancy said bounced. You can use these use these lenses to do different activities along the way. And so we'll be using, where'd it go? I have it. The Galileo Scope Activity Guide. Yeah, Galileo Scope Optics Activity Guide. So Galileo Scope Optics Activity Guide is what you're looking for, and it has a whole bunch of different activities that you can do using the lenses themselves from the kits. What they suggest doing, and what we'll be doing, is getting little styrofoam cups and getting a little slit at the top and having the lens be sitting in those styrofoam cups and moving those around in order to measure the focal length, figure out what the lenses do, make a telescope of sorts that's open air so you can see how all the parts work, and then have the students put together the Galileo Scope. So that's kind of an overview of what we're doing for the optical stuff. In fact, Sean is preparing most of the most of the materials, but he's also prepared the activities for all the optical things. We have the Inflatable Planetarium here at the STEM Center, which is really cool, so I will be bringing that out. So with, even if we get clouded out both nights and can't do a star party with the kids, we will be bringing our Inflatable Planetarium to show them what the night sky looks like. But I'd like to actually get them to learn a little bit about finding their way around the night sky using constellations. I've got, several of my favorite constellation stories in my back pocket that I can bring out. And we'll have the planetarium, and they will be making their own star wheels. So this is a star wheel that was made by this is Uncle Al's Hands-On Universe. This is from the Lawrence Hall of Science in California, and they have modified it for the Kepler mission. So I'll put this link in the show notes for this special star wheel that this is the northern hemisphere. There's two different pockets, one for 30 to 50 degrees latitude, so mid-latitudes where a lot of us live, and there's another one that has a different circle for people living at higher latitudes. And the star wheel, it's a typical star wheel. They have one without lines and one with lines in the sky. This one doesn't have the lines. But in addition to the usual constellations, it has circled, so this is updated as of the end of 2013, I think, circled the stars in the night sky that are visible to the naked eye that have planets around them. So this has different stars where we know that there are planets, and it also shows the location of the field of view that the Kepler spacecraft was staring at for several years looking for exoplanets and finding up to 1,000 exoplanets that we know of so far. So it's a star wheel with a really modern twist because it shows you the locations of stars you can look at with your eyes that actually have planets going around them. So we'll be having them making those. We'll be talking constellation stories and doing all of that. Like I said, with any luck, we will have better weather than we've had lately. Been checking out the comments. Hi, Guido. Having some layout problems with the Q&A app, but you can watch Open Air Hangout, watching from the balcony. Pity it's not dark yet. Yes, Guido's in Germany, where it is already becoming evening. Where our original guest was supposed to be coming from was Portugal, but unfortunately her internet went out, and so she has no connection. Okay, so that's kind of just an overview of what we're doing for the first day, and I will be posting links to a couple of these activities on the event pages, and then they'll get scooped into the podcast version for 365 Days of Astronomy. So the second day, this is where I get really excited. So we have one day dedicated to Galileo Scope, optical light, backyard astronomy with things you can see with your eyes. Which is what you would typically see in a backyard astronomy boot camp, if you were to think of one. The second day is all about invisible light, and this is where I get really excited because I particularly enjoy talking about different types of astronomy using light that we can't see with our eyes. And so we'll be introducing them to these different types of light, how they can interact with it in their daily lives, and at the end they will get to play with an itty-bitty radio telescope. But we start off with the electromagnetic spectrum, and there is a great NASA activity which I found using NASA wavelengths, nasawavelength.org, one of my favorite resources, in which you get a clothesline, and instead of clothesline, we might just put them on a wall. You make a logarithmic scale. So you're teaching them, first off, what a logarithmic scale would look like. You've got, I'm not sure, yeah, so it's got 1, it's got 0.1, 1, 2, 10 to the 2. You have a showing them logarithmic numbers and showing a scale. And these are going to tell you what wavelengths you're working at. And so as you're working at different wavelengths, the students will then begin to identify what types of light correspond with those wavelengths, and so they'll have to start adding these cards. This is all part of a NASA activity in the exponential clothesline, and these are some different objects that they may be familiar with in some way, and the sizes that they correspond to, and what types of light in the electromagnetic spectrum they correspond to. So, for example, radio waves can be as big as buildings. Of course, the radio spectrum that radio astronomers use range from tens of meters to centimeters, millimeters, submillimeters. It starts to get a little fuzzy when you're at submillimeter range, because some people call it its own thing, some people call it radio, but that's a discussion for another day. But then when you get to something as small as the point of a needle, you're at infrared wavelengths. Ultraviolet, I don't actually see visible. They're all visible protozoans, if they're at all familiar with these particular types of organisms. Molecules, atoms, nuclei, things that are even smaller, and then microwave is thrown in there. Again, that's kind of the shortwave end of the radio spectrum. Things, well, yeah, on the scale of humans and butterflies, so pretty big range from our daily experience. So the students will get to match up these different types of objects to give them a sense of, hey, how big of a wavelength is that going to be? We were going to try and recreate the Herschel infrared experiment, but I've been having a little bit of trouble doing so. But this is something, if you happen to have a glass prism and several thermometers at home, this is something you should try. So I haven't quite had work doing it this time around, but I did do this once in grad school. William Herschel was looking at he was trying to understand the temperature of different wavelengths of light through a prism. And so what he did was, if you've seen this particular Cosmos episode, you've already seen this. He had a prism that created a rainbow on some kind of material, and they encourage you to paint the tips of the thermometers black. That should help it out. And then use an actual glass prism to make the rainbow. The prism I had wasn't making a very big rainbow. That could have something to do with it, why it didn't quite work. And he put the thermometer on the yellow color and on the blue color to see, and the red, to see what the different temperatures of these different types of visible light were compared to each other. And then for one, as a control, he put it outside of the red, so where it was dark, where there was no light that he could see. And lo and behold, spoiler alert, that thermometer, so the thermometers that were all in the different colors of visible light in the spectrum went up, but so did the one that was off of red. It was going up just as much as the others, if not more. And so what he discovered was that there was a type of light that existed beyond what we could see in the visible spectrum, and that is known as infrared. And he did this with the sun. Of course, we've had some really cloudy days, stormy days around here, so it hasn't been easy to do it for the sun. So that could be another part of why it hasn't quite been working so well for me this week. But so that's taking the sun as an astronomical object. That is the first astronomical observation of using invisible light. Would technically belong to William Herschel with his infrared astronomy experiment. Thank you, Guido. We have a question. Any good ideas how to get a 6-year-old who is starting school this year interested in astronomy? That's a great question. If you have semi-dark skies where you are, even if you don't have dark skies, I think taking her outside to see the moon and planets, things that you can still see from a city, would be a good way to get started. And even if you have, so I was about 5 when I got my first small telescope, really cheapy, terrible, tiny telescope. But looking at the moon through that very small telescope really kind of ignited a spark for me. So seeing something up close, if you had a telescope where you can show Saturn and Jupiter, those are really impressive from wherever you are. Those are good things to look at. And this may have just been me, but I think I've heard other people say they had this experience as well. Learning that the stars were different colors and that the colors corresponded to their surface temperature was really an interesting fact that stuck in my head from a very young age. So if you could pull out those weird, interesting facts that would interest a 6-year-old. And in particular, if you can tie it into her everyday experiences. I was able to tie the color of stars thing to our toaster oven. So if you have a toaster oven or if you have an electric stove, you know that the coil starts off dark black, dark gray, whatever, usually. And as it heats up, it'll start to glow dark red and orange. And if it's one that gets really hot, it'll go yellow. If it kept going, it would go white and blue. So you can compare that to what's happening is on the surfaces of stars, is that you have, as you change color, as you go from red to blue in the spectrum, you actually get hotter temperatures. So for me, at least, tying it in, getting to see astronomical objects close up with your own eye is a whole new experience that would appeal to a 6-year-old. And then throwing interesting facts that you could tie into everyday experience would be, I don't know, a good way to get them started in astronomy. So I hope that helps. Oh, Eric Christensen is asking, since I will be talking about radio telescopes soon, and is anyone actually listening to the upper HF frequencies, about 23 megahertz for radio astronomy anymore? I know Jupiter makes noise in that spectrum. There are a couple of projects that are working in low frequency. Let me see if I can get one up. One of my favorites, that particular low frequency, you get down to 23 megahertz, it's really tough because the ionosphere is, of course, starting to be a problem. So the Earth's atmosphere is see-through for visible light and for a certain chunk of the radio spectrum. And 23 megahertz is starting to get to where it's more and more difficult to see through. But one of my favorite projects is called the Long Wavelength Array. It's an array of dipoles in New Mexico. It's actually, the first station is at the site of the very large array in New Mexico. And let me screen share. They have running all the time something called LWA-TV. So the dipoles are brought together to make an interferometer, and they show the full sky every few seconds, so 30 seconds or so. This is at, let's see, what bands are this? It doesn't say on here. Oh, so this is the intensity. This V is just polarization in that same frequency. Full sky down to the edge of the sky. And it's, I don't remember. Oh, here we go. 37.8 megahertz. So this is a bit higher than 23 megahertz. And so things you can see the galaxy. This is what the sky looks like if you had radio eyes looking at about 38 megahertz. You'd see the Milky Way in the sky. There is a process called synchrotron radiation that's giving off radio waves all along the plane of the Milky Way. You have, looks like the sun is right in the middle of Taurus A right now, so it's kind of hard to distinguish them. You can see it changing a little bit. There's something just popped up on the edge. That might be something on the ground. Oh, there it is again. Taurus A and the sun are kind of on top of each other. Cassiopeia A is a supernova remnant, and you've probably seen pictures of it. It's really gorgeous and optical and high-resolution radio. But here it's just a dot. It's just a really big, bright dot, and it's the brightest thing in the sky right now. Jupiter is not showing anything in its location. Sometimes Jupiter will flare up, and you'll see it on here. So Taurus A is the Crab Nebula, and the sun are kind of on top of each other. That's all that's up overhead over New Mexico right now, but check out, I just googled LWA-TV. It's at University of New Mexico, and you can see what the sky's doing at 38 megahertz. This is definitely something I'll be showing our students this week when we get to the radio portion. On screen share. So, yay! Nancy also added, for talking to Guido talking to the 6-year-old who's starting school, talk to her about the Apollo missions in conjunction with looking at the moon, make it sound really exciting and fun. I, as someone who is removed from the Apollo missions, I'm very, 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 very jealous of those of you who did get to see those live, because I would, oh my gosh, I would love to see people walking on the moon in my lifetime. Okay, so a couple of other things, a couple of other activities we're doing in the Backyard Astronomer Camp on our Invisible Light Day. There are ways of detecting infrared radiation using simple household materials, and try this at home. This you can try at home. If you have a TV remote, typically, or DVD player, Blu-ray player, whatever. We have so many remotes in our house. When you click a button, if you're looking at that little glass bulb at the end of the remote, you don't see anything. It's a little glass bulb, but you don't see any light coming out. Do it in front of your cell phone camera. So if you have such a remote, put it in front of your cell phone camera and click the button and look at the image on your screen. And you will see something. You'll typically see something. So your TV remote is probably using infrared, and it turns out that the chip, the CCD, the detector that makes up your digital cameras, can see that type of infrared light. It can detect that infrared light that our eyes can't do. So, like, seriously, go do it right now. I don't even care if you walk away from the hangout. Check it out. So we'll be using the remote control, the infrared radiation from remote control, for them to play with and do that. We'll do the bounced and bent and blocked activities again. One way to do it is to, if you have a television set available where you are, which we won't have, is challenge the students to turn on the television from like a space outside the room where the TV is. And then they'd have to figure out, all right, I need something to bounce it, I need to reflect it, grab some mirrors, give them some materials, and they'll figure out that, ooh, if I use a certain set of mirrors, we can bounce that light around and turn the TV on. We don't have a TV where we're going to be, but I just discovered this morning that my partner Tim has a remote control helicopter that also uses an infrared remote control. So we're going to see if we can get them to control the helicopter with the infrared remote control from a different room, and see if they can bounce that around. So that'll be a fun little experiment for them to check out. But if you have any of those infrared remote controls, you should be able to see its light on your cell phone camera or some other digital camera that you're looking at. I'm checking comments again. Oh, Nancy points out, using the camera on your phone is a great way to determine if your remote is working or not. I have done this many times, yes. If you want to know if the problem's with your TV or with your remote, pointing it at your cell phone camera will definitely help out. Oh, Adam Synergy says, hi Guido, my daughter is 7. She loves looking at the stars, the planets, meteors, and satellite passes. Getting her to do math is the hard part. That's fine. She's only 7. That's just a start for the math. Yeah, looking at satellite passes, those of us in mid-northern latitudes again are getting us some really great International Space Station passes overhead this week. So hopefully, if it's not too cloudy, you can catch one of those as well. All right, so we're reflecting infrared light, and then we move down the spectrum a bit to radio. And we'll have some walkie-talkies. We'll have them going around with walkie-talkies as being RFI detectives. RFI stands for radio frequency interference. This is an activity that is often done in Green Bank in conjunction with the Green Bank Radio Telescope, giving kids some way of detecting radio radiation, either a walkie-talkie or an AM/FM radio if you still have a handheld version of one of those, and finding things that make radio waves all around them. It could be anything electronic. I know when I tap on my little Fitbit doodad here and the LEDs go off, it'll make a certain electronic scream. So you can have them actually start to investigate the sources of radio waves around them. We'll have them doing that, and attempting. We have some rolls of chicken wire in the Resource Center right now. We're going to have them attempt to build a Faraday cage and actually block. We won't be doing the bent and the bounced, but we'll be doing the blocked version of blocking radio light, and seeing that a simple metal screen type material is really good for blocking a lot of radiation, even though you can see through it, even though visible light gets through it, and in particular, even though sound gets through it, because a lot of people mix up sound and radio waves. Sound can get through it and visible light can get through it, but radio waves, that particular wavelengths of light, can't get through it. The highlight of the day for me is the itty bitty radio telescope. And so you may have heard me talk about this before, probably because I've been wanting to build one forever and just recently have gotten all the parts together. You can search for itty bitty radio telescope. There are several different sites that talk about it. This is from the NRAO in New Mexico. This is a site there. There's also the NRAO in Green Bank that has instructions. The SETI League has instructions. And an itty bitty radio telescope involves getting a hold of, this is what it looks like at the end here, a satellite, kind of a direct TV dish, which are super easy to come by. At least for me, they were super easy to come by. If you're on Craigslist or FreeCycle or any of those sites, people take them off their roof and they're literally just giving them away. They're just giving these guys away because if you're not using if you're not using satellite TV, you don't need it. So I was able to pick up 4 of these for free, just around the neighborhood and from friends. And what you do is you attach a signal meter. In particular, this guy here is called a channel master signal meter. You can use lots of different types of signal meters. There are some expensive ones, there are cheap ones. This particular channel master model is not made anymore, but they show up on eBay every once in a while. I have grabbed 3 of them so far on eBay for fairly cheap. What this signal meter does, this is often used by people getting satellite TV to make sure they're pointing at the right place without having it all hooked up to the TV. It just tells you when you've got a powerful source in your field of view of the telescope. But satellites aren't the only things you can see with this. You can see the sun. The one great astronomical source that you can really see with this telescope is the sun. It's not truly a telescope in that you can explore the sky with it, but you can explore the principles of radio astronomy using this. And this is kind of a fancier setup. What I eventually want to do is make this. This is just using a Lazy Susan, kind of a little platform on wheels that you can spin around. I've also seen them attached to tripods. I'll probably attach mine to a tripod. If you use one of these signal meters, you've got to build your own power supply, which is fairly easy. I went to Radio Shack and bought a bunch of parts and did some home soldering and was able to connect up the power supply. This is a great little maker project. This is a great introduction to electronics project that you might want to do with your kids at home. Properly supervised, of course. I don't need parental supervision for soldering anymore, thankfully. But that's something that you can do. And so we'll have so we've got one already pre-built, and we'll have the students using it to investigate the sun. Some other things, they can see the ground. So the everything gives off a little bit of radio waves, and the sky is very radio dark, except when you're pointing right at the sun or at a satellite. But the ground and people are a little bit warmer and give off some radio waves. So if a person stands in front of it, the signal meter will jump. And if you have one that has sound connected to it, I know this might get confusing because radio waves are light, not sound, but it does turn the signal into sound, and the sound goes wee, wee. So I will I took some video. Oh yeah, I took some video with Google Glass when I was building this and put it together, so I'll have to post that up in a bit. I'm going to check the questions again. Our neighbor's daughter, says Guido again, is already showing a little interest. We'll try to have her look through a small telescope this summer, but she's going to bed early. Yeah, I've noticed that my summer star parties have had to get later and later, which makes it harder for people to take young children, because they go to bed early, but this is when they're out of school, so it's very confusing to get them through. See if there are any other questions. Oh, William Northcote's asking, have ever done ham radio satellite experiments as with FunCube? I have not. I know there are several different there was several ham radio challenges where they have set up signals to come from satellites or even the International Space Station, and people had to detect them and decode them. But this, I'm just opening up the website you suggested called FunCube. It's a CubeSat. I think we had the CubeSat people on a couple months ago. CubeSat is a really small, really inexpensive satellite that you can have launched into orbit for you. And this one is FunCube. Looks like it's transmits at UHF and VHF frequencies. So you can actually use, if there are any ham radio people out there, which I know there are, watching this, you can check that out. That's called FunCube. I'll include that in the show notes as well, and link that in the show notes as well. So all the fun radio experiments. I have not made if anyone asks, thinking I have not made a radio Jove system yet, but that is Radio Jove is a do-it-yourself kit that lets you look at Jupiter in radio waves and see the things that are going on with Jupiter. I think a couple of last things we'll be doing with the students. So once we do the infrared and the radio, the other major part of the spectrum that we can do, because we don't really have homemade X-ray and gamma ray sources that we can play with, but we can play with ultraviolet light. And I did a while back, short video on using these white plastic beads that are sensitive to ultraviolet light. They actually change colors under ultraviolet light. There are all kinds of products that do that. They're called sun magic changing. It's not magic, it's science, guys. These UV beads, these UV sensitive beads are really helpful for detecting sources of ultraviolet light and also seeing what blocks ultraviolet light. Does your clothing block it? Does certain types of sunscreen block it? Do your sunglasses block it? You can kind of use those beads to test all of those things, and we'll have them doing an actual double-blinded experiment with some bottles of different types, which will probably have sunscreens in them of different strengths, and they'll have to determine which is the strongest and which is the weakest and line them up all in between using the ultraviolet beads. This works really well out in the sun, obviously. If it's not sunny, though, you can usually get a UV lamp, such as a black light or something similar, to be your artificial ultraviolet source, because most of our lighting here won't actually give off ultraviolet light. That'll set off the beads. So that is a good time. And if we have extra time, we talked about possibly trying to measure the speed of light in a microwave using chocolate. There's a cool little instructables on how to do that, but I'm not yet sure if we'll be able to do that. If we have a microwave we can borrow and do that with. We'll be showing them pictures of different astronomical sources in different wavelengths. It's always a good thing to show is what does the Andromeda galaxy look like in infrared? What does it look like in optical? What does it look like in radio and ultraviolet? All these different wavelengths are different ways of seeing the same stuff in the night sky. And so we'll be taking those 2 days to explore all those different ways. So we'll have students getting a Galileo Scope to take home and a tripod to use with it, and hopefully being able to view the visible night sky one of the nights that we're out there. And unless it's completely storming, we can use the itty-bitty radio telescope to help them see the sun. So it's actually nicer if it's completely cloudy but not raining, because we can be outside and point in the direction of where the sun is, and even if you can't see the sun through the clouds or can barely see the sun through the clouds, the itty-bitty radio telescope will pick it up. And I've got, like I said, 3 more dishes and several more signal meters just laying around in my garage that I'll be making more out of. I'll be sure to post all the pictures and videos that we get, that I get from building and construction and testing, and that we get with the students actually getting to use them and put them up. I'm going to check the comments once more if you guys have any questions. I realize this was a very short last-minute put-together show since unfortunately our guest was not able to make it. But I will be including the links of all these different activities that myself and my collaborator Sean Herberts will be doing the next 2 days with a group of students here in Illinois. And so if you want to do a backyard backyard astronomer boot camp of your own, you have some ideas to get started. So I'll check the comments again really quickly. They always get reordered on me. Okay, here we go. Nancy says older laptops before Bluetooth had infrared emitter detector pairs that could be used for syncing devices. Often the communication was wonky, so we used our phone cameras to see if anything was being exchanged. I did think about, but yeah, most of my devices are Bluetooth now, which is a radio frequency, not infrared, so that doesn't work as well. But some of the older stuff was infrared, wireless mouses and things like that are something to check out. That's all I have for today. Again, we will be rescheduling our topic, dark skies, the Dark Sky Preserve in Portugal and Alqueva, with Apolonio Rodriguez when her internet is back and working again. So thank you guys for coming and showing up and for watching and listening, even though we had to change our topic 10 minutes before showtime. I hope you enjoyed some of the descriptions of the different activities that you can do with students, with kids for backyard astronomy. I hope you get a chance to maybe try some of them out in the near future. And feel free to send me any questions. I am Noisy Astronomer. I'm with CosmoQuest. This was Learning Space. Our upcoming shows will be on Friday, which I will not be there because I'll be doing this camp, but Friday at noon Pacific, Fraser Kane will be doing the weekly Space Hangout. They'll be rounding up all the astronomy stories of the week. The virtual star party has officially moved to its new monthly schedule, so I don't think there's a virtual star party coming up. I've got to fix the Google Calendar on that. But they're moving to a monthly format since they've been having so much trouble with weather and whatnot. Let's see, the last one was on June 1st, so they will be doing it again at the beginning of probably at the beginning of July. I'll have to check. I'll have to double check with them. But the virtual star party on Sunday nights is moving to a monthly format. It won't be weekly anymore. And they'll be running a show regardless of weather and astronomer availability because they will use the month to build up fun and interesting images and movies and animations from their astronomers to show if everybody's clouded out that particular night. So that's the virtual star party. I will check out the virtual star party page on Google Plus for the schedule coming up. Astronomy Cast is noon Pacific on Mondays. Fraser Kane and Pamela Gay talk about the universe, what we know, and how we know it. Right now they're doing a series on numbered places. So picking names of things like Area 51, things that have numbers in them, and kind of getting into the background of that. And then that comes back around to Wednesday. So next Wednesday, Learning Space will be live from the Investigate Teacher Professional Development Workshop. Since we thought about canceling because Georgia and I are both doing 2 different teacher workshops that week, that day in particular. But instead of canceling, we're going to invite you to come along. So we have 20 teachers that are taking our CosmoQuest Investigate workshop, which will go over lesson plans related to small bodies in the solar systems. Small bodies in the solar system, asteroids, comets, meteors, meteorites, and all the differences of those things. And then we'll get them using asteroid mappers and explore some of the science of Vesta. So I'll be doing a live broadcast from the back of the lab or the classroom. We have a connected lab and classroom, which is fantastic, at the school that's hosting us at Whiteside Middle School. So I'll bring some of those teachers in to talk about their experience with the workshop and show whatever particular activity we're doing at the time that we're broadcasting. So you get to kind of join in for a little bit during our week-long Investigate workshop. Next week, same time, same place, here on Learning Space with CosmoQuest. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me, and my last minute show idea, and for keeping the conversation going in the Q&A and sending me questions and all that fun stuff. So that was it for Learning Space. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.